Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'da, habita fillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, accepts our good and forgives our evil and protects us from kulli su wa makruh, blesses us with ikhlas, with the battle of Sunnat al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ahabati fillah, a question was asked about minhaj. In short, ahabati fillah, the concept of minhaj from an Arabic linguistic point of perspective is referring to the path, the way. And the concept or the word, the terminology manhaj or minhaj, it could be with after the meme, it could be with a kasra or a fatha. That the manhaj or minhaj is also, for example, they say minhaj darasiyah or minhaj darasa, meaning the methodology for study or the curriculum. So what's your curriculum? For example, what is Athari's curriculum? Well, we're studying usul thalatha, we study aqidat-tahawiyya, we study Sharh Sunnah lil Imam Barbahari, we study a basic fiqh course. These are the text and the curriculum that we use. So that is one use from the Arabic linguistic point of view. So you'll hear that often mentioned in the Arabic speaking world as a reference to manhaj. Manhaj also, ahabati fillah, as is used as a more Sharia based terminology, and it's mentioned in the Quran as well. And that's often in the Quran referring still from a kind of a linguistic point of view, manhajan, a way, a path, a tariqah. Okay, so minhaj, as some of the scholars of Ahl Sunnah mention, which is, to the crux of what we want to learn and understand, this refers to the way or tariqah of da'wah. This is in general, and this you could look at many different definitions from many of our mashayikh of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, and they're generally referencing it as the tariqah or way of da'wah. And this is kind of a preferred definition of Allama Ahmad al-Najmi rahmatullahi alayhi rahmatan wasi'ah, that he referred to manhaj as being the way of da'wah, whereas aqidah having to do with what you ya'taqid or ta'taqid, what a person believes, their belief, from the usul of iman, the pillars of iman, and tu'mina billahi wa malaikati wa kutubihi, and believing in Allah, believing in his angels, believing in his books, believing in the day of judgment and the divine decree, the qadr, because those are the 6 pillars of iman, the 6 pillars of faith. And that has to do with aqidah, what you believe, your creed. And manhaj, some of the scholars don't distinguish between the two because they're so interrelated. But I do kind of myself use and prefer the definition of Allama Ahmad al-Najmi, or other than him, that the manhaj refers to the way of da'wah. So for example, you could have a group such as a jama'ah, like Ikhwan al-Muslimin. Ikhwan al-Muslimin, they are a group that have a certain methodology in their da'wah, a certain way in their da'wah. Manhaj referring to methodology. They have a way in articulating their da'wah, whereas they don't necessarily unify on a specific creed or aqidah versus a sect. So for example, you'll find people from Ikhwan al-Muslimin who go with Jama'at al-Tabligh. You'll find some that are Sufis. So you'll find some that are, takfeeree in their orientation. You'll find some that even have generally a Salafi creed, but yet their methodology in reforming the ummah would be according to that way, that other methodology. And this is where they deviate in the concept of manhaj. A last point I want to mention, ahabati fillah, regarding the concept of manhaj or methodology is, again, it's the way in which you articulate your da'wah. So a lot of books, classical works, for example, as we gave the example of Sharh Sunnah lil Imam Mazani, or Sharh Sunnah lil Imam Babahari, or Usul Sunnah li Abdullah bin Ahmed, or all the various creedal books that deal with Aqidah. At the same time, deal with a methodology. They deal with the methodology of the Salaf, how the Salaf approached the Quran. What did the Salaf believe as far as their creed with Al-Asma wa Sifat? And how did they deal with the people who deviated with regards to that creed? So their way of dealing with the deviants has to do with their minhaj, their methodology. Did they sit with them? Did they associate with them? When did they make it, when was it mashru' legislated to make hajr, to cut them off? Things like this. This has to do with methodological issues, minhaj, of how you practice and articulate that aqidah. So I hope that gives us some insight into this concept, especially for those who are maybe new to the da'wah to Ahl Sunnah and new to some of these terminologies and concepts. And we just ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, accepts our good, forgives our evil, protects us all from kulli su wa makruh, and rectifies our condition and affairs. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all with ikhlas, with thabat ala sunnah.